Before we start, I want to mention that this is a very serious topic that affects the real world. We're going to try to cover as much as we can, about as respectfully as we can. There is danger in diagnosing someone. When someone is diagnosed with something, they should seek help and learn to understand their condition. But when someone is misdiagnosed, they will start seeking help and get in the way of those that actually need it. What's worse is that when you misdiagnose a fictional character people identify with, they will start believing that something is wrong with themselves. And because a lot of people relate to Tech, even autistic people, they will start emulating him. But if they think he's autistic, neurotypical people think that he's autistic, like so many people suspect on Tumblr, they will mistake other people like him as autistic and try to help. This is more prevalent in non-autistic groups. In the process, hurting everyone with his preference for processing information, aka his MBTI personality. That's MBTI, which we'll get to in a minute. Autism is caused by a number of things, mainly genetics. It's kind of passed on like the red-headed gene. Both parents care to carry it to give it. It's also you're more likely to have an autistic child if you are over the age of 30. Some people thought the vaccines cause autism, but it's more likely that the ingredients killed brain cells, causing people to regress. This happens to someone my mom knows. Statistics say that only 1 in 100 to 160 people are autistic. It's entirely possible that the numbers are skewed because of the neurotypical people being misdiagnosed and true autistics going most, if not all their lives, undiagnosed. Especially since people pick up disorders from what they watch and whatnot and add it to their daily traits and habits. More so now than years prior because of the exposure and influence of social media. Any personality can have autism. Autism is not a personality trait as it is a genetic disorder. MBTI is used to determine what brain functions you tend to use the most often. Introvert versus extrovert, intuition versus sensing, thinking versus feeling, judging versus perceiving. Introverted intuitive types are the most often misdiagnosed with autism because they're the most likely to share traits, albeit tiny or superficial ones, with autistic people. INTJs are super picky when showing strangers their emotions, so they appear to have a lack of emotional expressiveness. INFPs have trouble keeping eye contact and putting thoughts into words, giving the impression that they have communication issues. INTPs sometimes shy away from being touched, so on and so forth. As Tech is an INTP, it's easy to assume he's autistic. D. Bradley Baker stated that Tech sounds like he might be on the spectrum. He's not sure if it was true. It's likely he doesn't meet a lot of autistic people. It is very hard for them to become actors. Only recently has Hollywood been bringing in autistic people to act. You have to be more than sound autistic to be autistic. Plus, some autistic people can mask being normal if it means that they don't get bullied. But their autistic traits will slip through if things become too much or they get uncomfortable around you. Now, how to tell if someone is autistic or not. We personally know 4 autistic people, all of them relatively high functioning. Our uncle, a guy at church, and 2 internet friends. Diagnosing someone can happen at any age, but typically the symptoms appear right after birth. Until the age of 4, most autistic kids won't explore their surroundings. The signs include refusing to look people in the face, stimming, learning disabilities, difficulty reading and expressing emotions, communication issues, gastrointestinal issues, and difficulty adapting. There might be a few other things. When normal people look someone in the face or their general direction, they're physically and mentally paying attention to you. An autistic person will deliberately avoid looking at your face as they can get extremely uncomfortable very quickly. Only doing so if it's absolutely necessary. You can also mistake a shy person for doing this. Stimming is these hand gestures to display discomfort, excitement, terror, or overstimulation, normally used to calm themselves down. This can be harmless as hand flapping in excitement to ramming their heads in a wall repeatedly to make everything stop. And it can go from harmless to deadly in a matter of minutes depending on the age, situation, and where they are on the spectrum. Plus, it takes a while to stop even if the emotion or the stimulation is over. Most don't reach that danger. Luckily, most don't reach that danger point. This is not to be mistaken for nervous habits that everybody has, or pent-up energy that only happen under specific circumstances and can fade in an instant for neurotypical people. Leg bouncing is built-up energy. Autism is a brain disorder that causes the brain to develop incorrectly, interfering with natural pathways. It makes a lot of things difficult for them, especially learning. This is why most autistic people have a very low IQ. ADHD is also common among autistic children. People with it can live happy, even if not necessarily normal, lives. If you do have high IQ autism, you're more likely to suffer Savant syndrome, making you super good at one thing, but everything else you would need help in. Autism also affects the guts, making it difficult to digest food as it causes pain, likely because there's a miscommunication between the brain and the guts. Autistic people also have a tendency to run away from safety, hence to why a lot of autistic children drown when someone's trying to rescue them. This may lean into their hatred of being touched, especially by strangers. Overstimulation is the biggest thing they can suffer, as they can't shut off their senses or dull them. Even high-functioning autistic people have difficulty with overstimulation. Movies and shows tend to downplay most of these, as if not ignore them entirely. Autistic people will find that their social and emotional skills are improved by listening to music. Because of the structure and the straightforward emotions conveyed, it would make sense to them. Some studies and calm them down. Some studies have found that they tend to enjoy classical or pop rock, while some people on the spectrum can't stand to listen to music at all. I've also heard a lot of stories from voice actors who are like, people telling them that their kids are like, their kids are on the spectrum, and they communicate with the only way they've been able to communicate with them is by having like these little puppets of these characters that they like and talking with them that way. And you hear a lot of voice actors having stories like that, and it's really cool. Because it's a brain disorder, the Kaminoans would see it as a flaw in Django's genome structure and remove it, or remove the child. As for Tech, let's play out his life as if he is autistic. Tech comes out of the tube and cries normally. Now Lassay wouldn't notice anything off until he only cries when being held, refusing to look her in the face. The finger to his lips would cause him to cry louder. After a few days, she would note that he's emotionless most of the time and appears disinterested in anything. She has the choice to throw him out and try again, or continue working with him. Okay, she keeps him. After a few months, she finally sees him reacting to things without crying. His hand flapping concerns her, though. Another month in, she sees that the other babies are passing him in intellect. She considers it a failure and throws him in the trash. If Tech did make it past infancy with autism, he would have been bullied by clones and Kaminoans alike. The clones thinking he's weird and different, the Kaminoans thinking he's a failure and should be dead. Sticking with the rejects, cleaning the halls till Savant syndrome kicks in. Because of how sterile and controlled their environment is on Kamino, they wouldn't prepare them for the amount of chaos that war brings. Tech would not have survived the first few weeks of the war if he was autistic, as the explosions, blasters, shrapnel, and screaming would have been too much to handle. You would see him violently stimming after every mission. His brothers would force him to sit out on missions. 3 years would not have been enough for him to find a healthy coping mechanism. On Tumblr, a lot of people think that autism is cute or funny, especially the stimming and being emotionally clueless, which it can be sometimes. Some fictional characters are accidentally autistic. These characters are given these little traits that mirror autistic ones. 2 characters I can think of off the top of my head are Chase from Transformers Rescue Bots and Clank from the Tinkerbell movies. Chase is played off as the clueless, takes everything literally character, mostly played for laughs. He doesn't get jokes, idioms, or sarcasm, despite the fact that Cybertronians seem to have the same linguistic attributes. The Burns family is also really bad at explaining stuff, furthering his confusion.
Careful, Boulder. You'll want to get your sea legs first.
Will those legs be additional or replacement extremities?
First mate, shiver me timbers.
Shiver your own timbers.
But they play it off as his full personality, which makes it hard to pinpoint his real personality. You could argue that he is autistic, but it manifests differently in Cybertronians. Plus, as they tend to age slower than humans, he would have found healthy coping mechanisms before he reached his teens. Or Cybertronian equivalent. Clank is played off as funny and cute. He is shown being unable to take care of himself and stuffing things in his mouth that he shouldn't despite being an adult. He acts like a child most of the time.
Bobble, perhaps you and I are brothers.
He also has difficulty with being alone for long periods of time. Clank seems like he was based off of either an undiagnosed autistic person or a highly functioning one, but I could be wrong about this. 3 examples of intentionally autistic characters are Matthew from The Chosen, Farkle's girlfriend from Girl Meets World, and Donnie from Rise of the TMNT. In The Chosen, Matthew is autistic with Savant syndrome. They clearly did their research. They even have Thomas as a character to foil to Matthew, as they both big numbers guys. But Thomas is neurotypical.
False prophets among us who use God's words not to praise Him, not to glorify Him, but in the pursuit of their own power. It is
What are you doing?
Seduced. Often we think of false prophets as
This guy is so irritating to me.
saying forth
Makes sense.
obviously false claims.
You're kind of the same person.
Many are there,
All numbers and logic.
cloaked within the vestment of truth.
Except he can't tell jokes.
Guys,
Wolves
We should see what he wants.
serpents wearing the skins of men.
that Pharisee knows us. He does not approve.
What do you mean?
He used to live in Capernaum. He once yelled at our master.
That guy?
Shh. He called for his arrest at the house of Big James and John's father. We should go.
Where? The meeting place is a block away. What are the odds? You guys are both actually calculating the odds.
In Girl Meets World, they have an episode dealing with autism. Farkle is asked to take a test to see if his negative behaviors are based in autism. Turns out he was just a jerk this whole time, but the smart girl who likes him is autistic. Her character never changed before or after the revelation, so that's actually 1 point in their favor.
I'm okay. I will go through life alone.
Isadora, you haven't lost Farkle.
He doesn't want me now. Why?
Because he doesn't have Asperger's like you.
How did you know?
We studied. We're studiers. She made me.
I was diagnosed when I was 5 years old. I struggle with it.
Isadora, I don't think there's anybody we respect more than you.
I'm not like everybody else.
But who wants that?
I am sad. What? Farkle and I are perfect for each other. Why does he prefer you?
I don't know. If I knew, I'd stop.
Well, there's nothing left to do now but get a smoothie all alone and continue this good cry I'm having.
You're crying?
Yes. Hooah, hooah.
I don't think this actually.
Hooah, hooah, my heart belongs to someone else.
Say it louder.
Must I torture you?
Would you please?
I just always say those things because I guess I'm a little insecure that Farkle doesn't really like me as much as he says, so I guess I'm just trying to protect myself.
And Donatello from Rise. He is specifically written to be autistic, low empathy with ADHD. We're shown him stimming when he was younger, and as he grew up with a family that's embodied chaos, he is able to learn to function within it.
Why aren't you guys more upset?
Oh man, this hurts me. I'm very sad.
You didn't like Lou Mike Tony's?
Yeah, I found a bug once and that was really it for me. Okay, now that we've all moved on.
Keep it down, Donnie. Donatello, with the book in his hand, saves the day and proves to everyone that he's the man. Popo comes in and takes him away, but Donnie's will live to fight another day.
I love this place. Smells like learning and puberty.
Because he was written as autistic, people are using him to retroactively misdiagnose the other versions of Donnie.
Finally, I can make you pay for your past crimes. Helping the Fugitoid escape, abusing my royal personage by holding me hostage, disgracing our honored warriors, the Triceraton All-Stars, and you stole my personal space cruiser!
Did I do all that? I always was an overachiever.
The core traits of Adani are being highly intelligent, sassy, kind-hearted, and have murderous tendencies, each in varying degrees. Autism is optional, but not usually recommended. Why do they keep wanting to make smart characters autistic? Doesn't make sense. Data in Star Trek: The Next Generation is supposed to represent the autistic mindset.
Ambassador Spock, may I ask a personal question?
Please.
As you examine your life, do you find you have missed your humanity?
I have no regrets.
No regrets. That is a human expression.
Yes. Fascinating.
Which, honestly, is actually really cool. A lot of fictional autistics display Savant syndrome or in the middle with average intelligence, representing 30% of people on the spectrum. The Pixar short Loop is an example of the other 70%. The core reason I think is this, is because the 30% is more likely to survive or be able to assist in the story. Autism is not funny or cute to the person afflicted with it. To them and their families, it is a huge struggle. I mean, it's definitely hard on my aunts. A lot of Tech's behavior doesn't line up with autism. Tech understands sarcasm, has a large amount of interest, doesn't mind being gently touched, and understands other people's emotions. Tech, at his core, is an INTP who spent his entire life being told that his feelings don't mean squat. That only his massive intellect was worth anything. He is a child soldier like all the other sociopaths in the clone army. Because of this, he was trained to keep his emotions in check to the point that he breaks a femur and just walks it off.
My left femur has been fractured by approximately 150 kilograms of pressure. So, no.
Autistic people can't mentally turn off their senses, so they avoid most things. If Tech was autistic, he would have screamed and tried to shut off the pain in a violent manner, possibly killing himself because it's unbearable. You can train a non-autistic person to shut it off, or ignore the pain. You can tell that Tech doesn't mind getting touched because he responds positively to Romar touching him and a total stranger that he just met.
You did it. You actually did it.
Well, of course I did.
Fee touches him too, and he just ignores it. The only time he hates being touched is when Wrecker is a bit too rough or the other clones shoves him.
So bad after all.
Trooper, what division are you from?
Step aside.
Oh, well, they seem the same to me.
This makes sense as he was bullied as a child. Plus, Tech makes a lot of eye contact that with people he's talking to or looks in their direction.
Skako Minor.
A live signal?
Let it go, Wrecker. Crosshair has always been severe and unyielding. It is his nature. You cannot change that. He cannot change that. Why are you defending me? I am not. Understanding you does not mean that I agree with you. Does unscheduled break mean you are fully versed in every ship in the Imperial fleet?
Do I have to do this right now? We're on a mission.
That does not give you a pass on your studies.
Tech, we've got the cargo.
Hey now. Got a name, Brown Eyes?
Tech. However, the phenotypic eye color for all clones is brown. Iris pigmentation was not affected by
Well,
our
as
mutation.
fascinating as this has been, I have places to be.
Once they arrive with the mineral.
Except we still don't have the Marauder, or a way off this planet, and we can't contact Echo for help.
We do not need help. We will figure out a solution, as we always do. I am not sure how I should care about change. It is a fundamental part of life. I am aware that you miss him, but we have to adapt and move on. That is what soldiers do. Well, yes. Yes, of course we are.
Then why don't you act like it?
Echo chose a different path, as did Crosshair. I have to respect their decision. Even though it can be difficult to understand, we must carry on. I may process moments and thoughts differently, but it does not mean that I feel any less than you.
If he was autistic, we'd never get a good look at his big, beautiful brown eyes.
We have to get him on board.
Hunter, on the other hand, because of how smart the Kaminoans are, they did use what they knew of autism genomes to perfect Hunter's ability. Humans naturally have strong senses, but over time it's dulled, it dulls or is trained to ignore stimuli. Autism never dulls and can't be trained to ignore stimuli, causing overstimulation. Hunter is the most likely to be overstimulated, but has the emotional advantage of being able to properly cope with it. Nalase had to tweak the gene in order to get that result. So if you think about it, Hunter is closer to being autistic than Tech is. Plus, he's got the lowest IQ in the batch. But that's a whole other topic. So, is Tech autistic? No. We don't have a problem with autistic people relating to Tech. It's only natural to latch onto characters who share similar traits to you. It's healthy even. As long as you don't go too far. We just want people to be careful about labeling people with disorders that they don't understand. Bye. Bye.